Hi, guys. This is Sandy Shellis. Thank you for joining us. And I want to talk about what's going on in Hanford, Washington today. As you all know, that we posted the information that in a nuclear waste facility that is processing nukes has been breached. Okay. I'm going to do a little reading because as I got the news, and I have to say my team is fast because I was out today and they had that up there, and it was Roger got it up, and then Cindy got it going, and we are on top of this. But I am upset. I have done things on nuclear stuff, and our friend Kim, that is a very big supporter. Kim is only 4 hours from there. And I also tried to get in touch with Angie Spencer, who is another activist who is in Washington State. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to come on. We're going to talk about this. I want you to learn a little bit about this. Hanford. I think it's really important. Little bit of history here about this place. Hanford, the White Bluffs and Richland, they were all small little farming towns founded between 1905 and 1910. The towns had a combined population of 1,500. Richland's 1940 census numbered, citizens at 200. Then came World War II. The Manhattan Engineering District was formed in June 42 to build industrial plants to make plutonium-239 and uranium-235. Lovely things. In December of that year, Colonel Franklin Matthias scouted the western United States to find a suitable site for the plutonium production facilities. Now, back then, they knew things, they didn't know things. I did the live stream about our nuclear testing in the islands, the Pacific Islands, and what kind of tragicness has happened out there as a result. So in 43, the decision was made to build the production facilities at Hanford. Citizens were made to leave their homes. In 30 months between groundbreaking in March 1943 and the end of the war in 1945, and for a cost of $230 million, workers built 554 non-residential buildings, including BDF reactors, TB&U processing canyons, 64 underground tanks, fuel fabricating buildings in the 300 area, 386 miles of roadway, 158 miles of railroad lines, and a new city of Richland, which could house 17,500. All of the war machine, United States war machine for World War II. Which actually was probably the last war that we fought that was not for oil, and a war that was not where we were going to, take over another country or regime change. Plutonium from Hanford's reactors went into the Trinity test bomb and into the bomb dropped on Nagasaki. Japan surrendered unconditionally within a week. After World War II, there was a lull at Hanford. But by 1947, the Cold War was underway, and here we go again. And the first post-war expansion at Hanford quickly followed. The Korean War led to the next expansion of operations. So Hanford's plutonium production reached its peak between 1956 and 1963, with 9 reactors along the river making plutonium. Lovely. The newest reactor, N reactor, also made steam and had an electrical power plant. So production began to slow around 1965 and actually stopped altogether in 1989. Plans to clean up the waste began as early as 1958, 2 years after the first leak was reported. Reported now. Let's say reported. Okay. And it was continued on to today. Regulation of Hanford began in 1989 with the signing of the tri-party agreement between the U.S. Department of Energy, our lovely Rick Perry, who's been briefed about this today, Washington State Department of Ecology, and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So that's the background of the place. Now, I'll go into what happened today. NPR had said that the emergency was declared at the nuclear contaminated site in Washington State, and they have declared a state of emergency. But let me say something here. They have said there's been no radiation leaking. I will leave that up to you guys. I will leave that up to you. Okay? I'm going to leave that up to you. So anyway, they said all the personnel in the immediate area have been accounted for. They are safe. There is no evidence of a radiological release, Destry Henderson, who is a spokesperson for Hanford Site's Emergency Operations Center, said in a brief statement on Facebook. Now, they call them employees were evacuated. Others were told to move indoors as a precaution. But, this site is 150 miles from Seattle, okay, southeast of Seattle. And it's been a troubled cleanup operation. Everything I know about it has been troubled. It is generally regarded as one of the most contaminated areas in the whole country. We like to think of Washington State as a beautiful, pristine state, and we're hoodwinked, we're lied to. I know I use that word a lot. It's an old-fashioned word, but what can I say? It's better than saying we're fucking lied to. So anyway, these tunnels. It was a 25 by 20 foot section of soil. It caved in where two underground tunnels meet next to the plutonium uranium extraction facility known as the Purex plant. And the cave-in was discovered during routine surveillance. Now, these tunnels in question, they were storing rail cars. And these rail cars once carried radioactive nuclear fuel from reactors to production facilities, back when that site was still used, okay? Now, these tunnels are hundreds of feet long, and they are made of wood and concrete, and they are covered with about 8 feet of soil. That's really protecting everybody in that area, isn't it, guys? Okay, so a 20-foot long section is what appears to have collapsed. But, when you hear that the Department of Energy, headed by Rick Perry, says that there's no indication of a release of contamination, I don't know, but I'm only going to give you the news. I'm going to give you what I have, and really it is up to you guys to make the decision of what you think. But there are other things, and Kim just said that there are no concrete walls around them. That's what Kim has said, and I don't know why it didn't show up. Kim, can you see that? Well, I don't know. Maybe it did. And Kim lives in Washington. So we're going to talk about the produce that comes from that valley next. And hello to all my friends. So this is a picture of the site. It's pretty big. One of my sources said it was the size of half of Rhode Island. That's pretty big. That is a pretty big site. And, the governor of Washington's name is Jay Inslee, and he says there are many questions about how this collapse happened. And they've got to get to the bottom of it. Obviously, they can't have this happening. People live there. It doesn't inspire. As my lovely friend just said, it does not inspire trust in our, nuclear energy regulatory or any of it. Now, Roger just has a whole lot of stuff. It represents 2/3 of the nation's high-level radioactive waste by volume. Today, Hanford is the most contaminated nuclear site in the United States and is the focus of the nation's largest environmental cleanup. The government spends $2 billion each year on the Hanford cleanup, 1/3 of its entire budget for nuclear cleanup nationally. And it's expected to last for decades. Now, I was listening to some information today because I'm always, about Indian Point nuclear plant in New York. Indian Point, that is just to shut it down and decommission Indian Point, 50 years. 50 years. Thank you, Roger, for giving the information. I really appreciate that. Roger's the best. He's very helpful. We're a team that jumps together. We jump in fast. Something happens, and here we are. So Hanford, which it sits next to a river, of course, because they always have to have a water site, a water source, a water site. It is the Columbia River. It's one of the original Manhattan Project sites, as I read before. And they irradiated those nuclear uranium fuel rods. Absolutely frightening. Absolutely frightening. Okay. So I'm going to go on now. I want to talk a little bit about things that have happened about this plant. Now, they're talking about that they're working on a fix for the hole. And I have something I pulled up from 2017, February 28th. This was from K5 Connecting Western Washington. And it was called Sick and Denied Care at Hanford. We want our lives back. And there's a video with it. And they're talking about how Hanford is the most dangerous job site in the state. Maybe it's one of the most dangerous job sites in the United States. And workers are charged with digging up, packaging, and transporting highly radioactive debris. This is what they do. This is their job. I wonder what the hell they're paid for this. So others oversee the storage and monitoring of millions of gallons of radioactive and chemically contaminated liquid waste stored in aging underground tanks. Boy, I would really feel comfortable if I lived near there. So the content of these tanks is considered the most lethal substances. They're the most lethal substances on the planet. Hi, Lori. Hi, everyone. I'm glad you joined me. This is so important. The former plutonium production facility is also the most contaminated place in the Western Hemisphere. We hardly ever hear about it, do we? No. Yet workers who became sick from exposure to toxins there are routinely denied the help they need to treat and manage their illnesses. Interviews with dozens of sick workers and studies going back a decade conducted by government-hired experts and advocacy groups. I can't even say anything right. Advocacy groups detail a worker compensation program at Hanford fraught with injustices, inaccurate science used to deny claims. Isn't that typical for this country? My God, I'm so angry reading this. And aggressive legal battles waged by the federal government for those who fight the system, hand-picked doctors, drawing conclusions without complete medical records, and a colossal amount of confusing red tape for workers already struggling to deal with serious health problems. This is a station this is not just some fake news site I'm reading from. This is a local station that reported this story. So the U.S., Department of Energy owns Hanford, figures, right? So these people feel like, they're fighting to retain their memory, their mind, their health, and they're having to fight tooth and nail against this system. My God. This woman, Melinda Roos, she says she's the wife of a former Hanford worker who was diagnosed with occupational-induced dementia, and his worker compensation claims for the illness have been denied. And basically what they're saying, these people, is they want their life back. They want their life back. They stole these people's lives by not telling them correct information. So at Hanford, The Washington State Department of Labor and Industries doesn't manage the site's workers' comp program. A special agreement between state and federal government, as provided by RCW 51.04.130, allows the Department of Energy to run its own program as long as the state determines it's in the national interest. Well, we know what's in the national interest. Healthcare, denying healthcare, denying people the right to healthcare. And so we hear about this and we know that the nation, the federal government is in charge and finds that this system has been broken for years. So these are the people that work there. Okay. So how can we feel that really there is no release of any radiation? I don't trust it, but I am not an expert. I'm just talking from emotion, and I am opinionating. I am a citizen's journalist, but I am here opinionating based on the facts that I have found in front of me. Now, in 2014, there was a tank vapor assessment report authored by the Department of Energy Savannah River National Laboratory. And it concluded that inappropriate scientific methods are being used in the collection of chemical vapor exposure data that is then used against workers in denying claims. Do I even have to go on with that one? Do I even have to go on? It's very disturbing. I don't know if you guys are seeing the words, because when I put them up, I'm only seeing them in one place. Forrest says typical capitalists. Yeah, at their best. Well, anyway, they call these people that have come down with diseases called toxic encephalopathy, which is dementia, okay? Reactive airway disease, which is like COPD, chronic beryllium disease, nerve damage, and I said COPD, asbestos, and certain cancers. Yet the workers say that trying to get them, the comp makes them feel like liars, like they are trying to game the system. So Hanford is a big problem. And if there are any people, thank you, encephalopathy. Forgive me, I am not good at pronouncing certain words, especially when I'm doing something like this so quick. But what I'm saying here is, after I'm reading this, I think, my goodness, what about these workers now? Thank you, Lori. She says it's brain deterioration. Oh, I'm probably sure there's more than that. Well, anyway, so there's another one I'm reading about babies and birth defects in the area near this site. Anencephaly, 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 birth defects near Hanford nuclear site skyrocket 3,000%. This was in February 4th, 2016, and they said it is one of the most terrifying and deadly of all human birth defects. It's quite rare, except for those living in a 3-county area in the central part of the state of Washington, where the rate of children born with the disorder is more than 2,500% above the national average. So today, in our psyches, we read about this Hanford plant. We never think about this on a daily basis unless you live in Washington State. And now we're going to, because I have a feeling that this disaster, this collapse, might lead to more than what we are being told. So people that live around there are having babies with birth defects, and authorities were trying to cover up the link, but it would seem obvious to even the most casual observer that the high incidence of the defect is somehow connected to the Hanford Nuclear Facility, which is located in the vicinity where the cases are occurring. So it is pretty sad. It is really, really sad. There's been an aura of secrecy maintained regarding this facility, and that the secrecy continues to be manifested due not only to efforts on the part of the government, but also to the loyalty of the locals who took pride in their involvement in the project and who want to protect jobs. You know, people are so scared of jobs. But then you read about, okay, if you go to work there and you have something happen to you, good luck getting your workers' comp claim. There was one more, and I'm going to talk about this too. In the area, okay, there's called the Yakima Valley. And there is produce. And I will put all these things up. I'm going to put all these things up, okay, so that you can read them for yourself. So here they're talking about, and it is A for lifestyle, okay. You care about your well-being. You know, you might exercise at the gym, do yoga, or just walk outside every day. You might take supplements, drink your electrolytes, and check your urine pH every week. You might eat healthy. You might make sure that you consume fresh fruits and vegetables every day. You buy only organics, and you look for locally grown food, right? So you do all those right things to keep yourself healthy. Well, guess what? In the past 3 years, you know, as I read before, a growing number of babies in the Yakima Valley area in Washington state were born with that anencephaly, that serious birth defect. And it is a beautiful rural area. I've been looking at the pictures in south central Washington, 140 miles southeast of Seattle. And it is known for its fertile volcanic soil, and it is home for many local wineries and apple orchards and other agricultural fields. And, you know, it's also a vacation destination. Would you want to go on vacation where Hanford site, where it is? Do you think that when Washington State is doing their tourism work that they're talking about, oh, come to Yakima Valley. We have a really radioactive nuclear waste site right next to it. I doubt it. So according to this, you know, which goes into some of the stuff that I had talked about, these cases about of the birth defects in the babies, the still have not been answered. Still have not been answered. And it was also noted that anencephaly was a common birth defect in Japan post-World War II. And guess where else? Chernobyl. Now, in Japan post-2011, the government still of Japan does not want to release the statistics of birth defects. Now, maybe now they have some, but I don't know. It's only been a few months, but there's evidence. There's evidence. So what that leads me to is that what has happened is a tragedy, and I think is going to lead to a lot more. And, you know, we have nuclear power in many countries. It's an energy source, France and Germany and Japan and the United States, everywhere. And they want to build more. So we really need to keep our eyes open. And I've done streams on nuclear plants before, when I heard that Indian Point was closing or going to close or going to be decommissioned, which is going to take forever. But, you know, you have these things you got to think about. It's safety, but it's of the plant itself, but the waste takes 24,100 years for plutonium to decay. So what are we doing to our habitat, and what are we doing to ourselves? And who's responsible to ensure the safety of the environment and of local residents, you know, everywhere? So as I close, I think that now the name Hanford needs to be on our mind. And we need to keep track of what's going on. And I want to put up a couple of things. Yeah, those babies don't live long. Let's see. Rebecca says, I was just going to suggest that this is the canary in the mine shaft. just the beginning. That's what I'm feeling. And that's why I had to come on here and talk about this today. And we are destroying everything. Roger, we know this. I cry every other day, every day. We're destroying everything, Roger says, and life itself, causing an extinction event. And we have to be aggressive and serious now. We have to make the changes now. You know what I think? We have to stand up. We did a climate march. What the frig is the climate march doing? I mean, we really need to do something. I don't know what it's going to be. Not paying taxes. You know, what are they going to throw millions and millions and millions of people in jail? I don't know the answer. I'm just upset. I feel for the people of Washington, and I am a spokesman for my team and for other people. And I do have a great team. Thank you for coming. Do you have any questions before I go? I don't want to keep everybody too long. This is, a really serious thing. Evan had something up here. He was getting pro-nuclear power. Oh, I read that before, Evan. You said you're not getting them in your feed. He's not getting the pro-nuclear power stuff in his feed. The Hanford site reprocessed spent power station uranium to extract a small percentage of plutonium produced there for nuclear weapons. Nuclear fuel becomes hotter over time and is unsuitable for use in power plants. My worry is migration through the groundwater system. You are goddamn right. And, they want to close that Indian Point, but they've put pipelines for frack gas under it. Are we out of our freaking minds? I think humans, and I've said it before, I think actually what's happened to humans is human beings have a fungus on their brain, and it's the same freaking fungus that is causing the leopard sharks to become disoriented in San Francisco Bay. And I'm telling you guys, we're on it. We gotta be. Thank you for coming. I'm worked up. I'm upset. And I really appreciate that all of you are here. And please, please share this so everybody else can know. We can't forget the name Hanford, and we can't forget about the people that work there. All right? Yes. Definitely. Roger says that, but you guys and Kim, I know Kim, you were here, and hello, Dawn. Hello to everybody, Dawn and Kim and all of you. I thank you for being with me. Please, please share this. And Marsha, you're here too. Yes, we did talk about Marsha was saying that it's on the Columbia River, as if leaking radiation isn't contaminating the river and the air. Of course. Anyway, I'm not going to keep you any longer. Appreciate that you came. Thank you very much. I love you all. Peace, as I always say. Peace. Good night. Good night.